Hey, yo, we talking all the facts.
You're blind, baby. You're blind from the facts.
With the Lawfather, William Franchi.
You can't handle the truth.
On the Hip Hop Study Hall podcast with DJ Ekin.
If there's ever facts involved, I'm asking the right guy, because you know me. I will give your ass a fun fact or a fact that's like, might be a little shaky, but that's why I always like when you're here.
My facts can be fun.
No. And like I said, you're a great conversation. Don't ever take it like I think that, I got this lawyer here. He's just here to tell me the facts, folks. He's not a good talk. Dude, I even asked, could we create a whole segment for this guy? That's how great I think he is. That's it. All facts with the Lawfather. Why I really wanted to have you back this week, though, actually, I'm not sure if I'm having you back or if you're having me here, because we're in Lawfather headquarters, which is good for me, though. I want to start moving around with the pod, so I appreciate you letting me even come here.
You are welcome to come here anytime you want to shoot the pod.
That might be a move.
You can do it anytime, seriously. Anytime. This room, I only use this room. Those of you who are listening to us, it's all decked out. These are actually soundproof right behind us and on this wall. So it's done up pretty well. Not a lot of echo. So you're welcome here anytime. I only use this for video.
Is it safe for rappers?
Yeah.
Because I asked that because, a lot of rappers, they, cases or, paraphernalia. They don't want to.
This is a law firm.
Yeah, I have to tell them. That's why I tell them. I'd be like, dude, you have to be prepared when you arrive at the studios if we record there. And there's no, because we've done some video interviews and these dudes just be sparking like right in the interview. But I take it. It's rappers.
I mean, if anything comes up, we'll just, the old, what was that show that Better Call Saul?
Oh, there you go.
Give me $1 and sign this paper. Now I'm your attorney. Now you have privilege. We'll just do that same thing.
Dude, you see the facts? You see the things I learn here?
I'm not sure that's actually accurate, but it sounds really good for TV. I don't even think you need the $1. You just gotta, just sign up. Retainer, done.
And I always have paper.
Oh, see?
I should bring a pen though, because Jason says I only want to write in pencil, so I probably should bring a pen.
We have those here, actually.
This place looks like it's always prepared. That's why I'm saying I am gonna come back here. Big deal that I wanted to talk to you about, because we talk about a lot of things to me when I come see you, pertaining to legal and factual versus what people believe in the street, what people believe online, right? And we're looking at 10 years ago, February 26, 2012, we lost a 17-year-old kid named Trayvon Martin. Shot and killed over in Sanford, Florida. Was a pretty big deal, even more than a pretty big deal. I mean, first of all, we lost a 17-year-old kid, but shot by a security guard who was actually supposed to be, in my opinion, there's no other way to put it, protecting the very neighborhood that Trayvon was in visiting his father, right? We got all of that. We got all kinds of things that go along with this, right? We got Trayvon was in a hoodie, had gone to 7-Eleven, Skittles, Arizona iced tea, which I don't know why that's even a part of it. But of course, they get what he's doing that night. Shows on video, he's in the store, no crimes committed, nothing like that. Walking back to his dad's house, begins to get followed by the security guy, George Zimmerman, right? Now, and this is just to the gist of the story, Zimmerman had been known for targeting young black males, and it's not nothing I'm making up. It's what he called the police on constantly. It's who he watched, the type of person he watched way more than he watched anybody else. Not to mention, he wasn't even a real cop. He wasn't even a real. Let's get that out. He's not even a real cop, but he is carrying a 9mm gun, and he was licensed to carry that gun, right?
I believe so. Yes.
Okay. So that's not.
Yeah, because there would have been an additional charge. Yes. Right. So yeah, he was.
So he was licensed to carry that gun. Now, in the course of that evening, when he saw Trayvon, he started following him. He did call it in. They knew him, of course. But one of the things that I took from it was they told him specifically, "Don't follow the person. We don't need you to follow them. We're on our way. We don't need you to follow him." He continued to follow him. Now, this is where it kind of got murky at. The confrontation took place. Trayvon was on the phone, whoop-de-whoop-de-whoop here and there. They get into a tussle. Somehow or another, however close he was, they get into a tussle. Within them getting into this tussle, there's some confusion about who actually yelled for help. Now, one of the things that I've learned about that part is that a few of the neighbors actually say that they heard a young teenage boy yell for help. Also, one of the fun facts about this, and I say fun fact, not meaning funny, but if we're looking into facts, is that one of the neighbors also said that the investigating officer on the scene told them to change their story or had them, somehow had them change their story. Again, I don't know all of that part to be totally true, but the part that gets me is how this became a stand your ground case, a big stand your ground case. Now, before I give it to you, this is one of the biggest discussions that I have in the barbershop or in anywhere that this conversation comes up. And I always say this. I say George Zimmerman had a great lawyer, right? Because if you're going by the law, and you could tell me if I'm wrong, from what I get out of this, right? George Zimmerman was wrong in every aspect of this, following the kid, pretty much harassing him, checking him when he's like, bro, I don't got to tell you where I'm going. I'm going back to my dad's house. I don't owe you an explanation. All of that, right? But where they were able to win the case is when they got into the tussle, he was losing. And in losing, then it became, I fear for my life. I pull my weapon. I shoot this kid. Now, I don't know how much may know more than I do about the case, but when we're talking stand your ground, is that exactly where he became able to win this case in the eyes of the law?
There's so many different layers, right?
Gotcha.
So there's so many pieces to kind of touch on, but let's just focus on that one part for the moment.
Gotcha.
So they actually elected not to, and I remember actually from all of the news, it was, this is a stand your ground case, stand your ground, stand your ground, stand your ground. Right. They actually elected not to pursue stand your ground. So and let me take a step back, actually, because stand your ground is really super complicated, right? It's simple, but it's also complicated all at the same time because it can be invoked at any step in the process. So law enforcement can invoke it and say, we didn't make an arrest because of stand your ground. Just like that downtown Tampa shooting that we were talking about and that they're cooperating, right? So the police could go, yep, we're going to say that this falls under stand your ground and it's self-defense and we're going to leave it under there. There's all different pieces that fall in line when you make that determination versus just not charging somebody.
Gotcha.
Okay? A judge can do it, a prosecutor can do it, or a jury can do it. Okay? And if a jury's doing it, they're doing it at the end of a trial, right? One of the kickers is if you win, you can actually get some of your attorney fees back. Okay, and you're immune from civil prosecution. So that's one part of it. And look, when you're talking about a criminal case, right, we're always talking about guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. And all the facts leading up to it, bad for Zimmerman, right? Facts afterwards, bad for him as well. You know what the problem becomes in convicting him of that? And obviously they didn't convict him. Here we are 10 years later, and we know he wasn't convicted.
Right.
You know what the major problem is with getting him convicted?
What was it?
The middle part. We have no idea what happened. No idea, right? All we know is we have an idea of how it ended, right? So we know how it ended.
Right.
We know how it began. But we don't know how we got from that beginning to the end. And that is where in the criminal side, that guilty beyond reasonable doubt really comes into play. Especially when you have something murky like, we know he got shot.
Right.
We know who shot him. And we know some kind of altercation ensued, right? But what we don't know is, did Zimmerman take a rock and hit himself in the face with it? Did Martin really hit himself in the face with it? Or hit Zimmerman in the face, whether a closed fist or an object or whatever else, right? We just don't know. So that makes that part really very, very difficult.
Okay, let me stop you here because this is what everyone would say back.
Yeah.
Why does that matter? Like why is that middle piece so important? Like what you're saying. And when you say rock, right, there was talk of
I just made that up.
Okay, no, but there was talk that he said something about Trayvon Martin took his head and was banging his head on the sidewalk or something like that.
Yep,
so
you're right.
there was a mention of, like you said, cement and that sort of thing. Why is that so super important though?
So, I mean, if you're in fear, right, if you're getting your head beat against a concrete, whether it's a rock or concrete or whatever else, I mean, you should be in fear of your life, right? I mean, look, I'm 6 foot, you're 5'7".
Right.
If you're on top of me and you're banging my head into concrete, yeah, you could end my life, right? I mean, that's just the reality, or cause me serious bodily harm. And that's the standard, right? So I don't have to think that you're going to kill me necessarily. But if I just think that you're going to cause me serious bodily harm, I can defend myself. Now I think after we touch on all this, we get into stand your ground, because it's really a catalyst to this whole thing.
Right. No, your clarification of this thing, I think a lot of people need to hear, because again, everybody now, right? Everybody's talking about carrying a weapon legally, right? Concealed weapon permits and all that kind of stuff, right? But I think you're also getting into very murky waters on when exactly you can use that weapon, and I think some people are actually confused about when it is self-defense, or when can it be self-defense,
right?
Or when it's not self-defense.
Yeah, and Florida's law, and they call it controversial. I don't know if it's controversial. I like it from my perspective because I'm responsible, right? And I'm not saying that I'm above anybody else, but I spent 6 years in law enforcement.
Right.
I learned and was trained on when to use a gun, when not to use a gun, right? When I started in 2006, or in 2022, however many years that makes it, right? I've been carrying since 2006. Do you know how many times I have actually pulled out a gun outside of when I was working at the sheriff's office and on duty? So off duty, or now just as a concealed weapons holder in all those years?
How many?
0. 0 times have I ever felt the need that I need to pull it out. Once it's out, that's it. I mean, it's kind of game on. You're already past that point.
Right.
It's time to dance. That person should be doing something to you that, hey, you know what? I am in fear for my life, or, hey, you know what? Someone's threatening your life, and I'm going to protect you, because the law actually allows me to protect you just as much as it allows me to protect myself.
Right.
So, I mean, that's how severe it should be. And you have guys like Zimmerman. I'm not going to give him a pass on this by any stretch of the imagination, but at the same time, I don't know what happened in the middle there. But I know, at least from what I can tell outside looking in, there's a lot of missteps in that, right? And think about, I don't know if you've ever lived in a community with an HOA. I have, and it's miserable.
Live in one now.
Yeah. Okay. What are the type of people, and because I think he was kind of the quote unquote security for the homeowners association,
yes.
Right? He wasn't truly I think he was a security guard by trade, maybe,
right?
But was not employed
right.
in that neighborhood.
I don't think he was hired. Like you right. Patrol this neighborhood for us every night.
Right. Think about the people on your HOA board. How many of those people are power hungry? Right? I mean, it drove me. The last time I lived in one, I sold my house, moved out, said I'm never going back to one. Right? And it seems to breed that type of person. So you put that type of person into a position of power, right?
Right.
And you're putting them in as the security person, and you're giving that person a gun. Right? And the dispatcher's telling him, don't go follow him. And he goes and follows him. Right? So I think that's where the breakdown is, right? Hey, Zimmerman was that type of person who was already kind of hyped up and kind of drunk off the power that you have from having that position. I'm gonna go get that guy. Now, I don't know if it was a racial thing, right? I mean, maybe there's a history there, right?
Right.
But at the same time, is it a racial thing, or is it hey, I have the power thing, and I'm gonna go because I have the power, and which I think is probably a little bit more dangerous, because it's just out there. You never stop that.
Right.
You can't ever stop somebody who wants the power.
When we're talking about history, right?
Yeah.
We're talking about a person's history. And you say, because one of the things that they did talk about Zimmerman, right, was that he has a history of mainly, when he's doing this job, being worried about young black males. That seems to concern him. If he sees a young black male, yeah, way more than if he sees a white lady walking by with groceries, or a white lady getting out of a car, a young white kid. Like, this is what concerns him. Does that history necessarily mean, though, that they can bring that into a case like this and be like, well, you see what he does this all the time? Or as a good attorney, which, like I said, I think he had one, you immediately start separating that, going, this is one incident. This is not these other incidents.
So pattern in history, generally speaking, is not admissible in court. So all of that past stuff most likely doesn't come into play. There's certain ways sometimes you can, but here's kind of the textbook law school example. If you, I don't know why it always comes back to car accidents, but you're in a car, right? And you get in a car accident, and the defense tries to say that you weren't wearing your seatbelt, but I was in the car with you, and I drive with you all the time, right? And I say every single time he puts his seatbelt on, I've been in the car with him, however many times, every single time, more than one, right? More than
Right.
two, right? But every single time he's got a seatbelt on. You can use that for history to show every single time he's done it this way, right? So therefore, this time he most likely did it the same way he did it every other time, right? But a history like Zimmerman's really tough to get in because you can't go, hey, all of them were like that, because I could go, here's the devil's advocate on it is, well, maybe he just chooses not to know the black families in the neighborhood, so he doesn't know the people when he sees them. So to him, it's an unknown person. Whereas the other people, the white people or the Spanish or whoever's over there, he tends to hang out with them more and knows them. And when he sees the people, he doesn't go up to them because he knows them. I'm not saying that's right. I'm just saying there's the other side to it from the legal side.
But actually, though, you did just now exactly what I wanted to hear. Because I think a lot of times in these conversations, and you know, you get your haircut, that you know how barbershop conversations are, right?
Oh, yeah.
It's a lot of homeboy rhetoric, and I love it because it's these are usually dope conversations to me, right? But when you start talking lawyer talk, you start talking the court of law and what matters when you're trying to prove a case, and you start laying those words out differently.
Yeah.
It becomes a very big deal when it comes time to try to prove someone guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. And that is why I wanted to talk to you right there. Yeah. And I think, how do we get people to understand that part, though? You understand what I'm saying? Like I'm sure you have clients, you have to be like, this is why I'm telling you this. This is why I need you to stop doing this, right? And you know, and I've heard you say it maybe to me before. Or, you know, I watch enough lawyer shows, right? It's not what I think I know. It's what I can prove.
Right.
And when I hear you talk sometimes and lay things out to me, I go, that's the difference in the conversation.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. And like, let's touch back on the fact that there were witnesses who said that maybe law enforcement told them to change their story. Doubtful, right? I mean, what officer out there, right? And having been in that position, at the end of the day, and I don't want you or anybody else that's listening to take this the wrong way. It's a garden variety shooting. Like, I've worked shootings, I've worked a lot of things, and guess what? You're there every day, and you're dealing with this every single day, right? So yes, it is a big deal, right? But when you're working in that, right, this is your garden variety case, right? Two people, they get in a thing, and there's a shooting, and someone dies, right? It's big, don't get me wrong.
Right.
But look, if you treat everything in law enforcement as if it's big every single time, you'll burn yourself out, right? So to them, it's a garden variety case. There's no incentive for any of them to go to any witness and go, you should change your story, right? Now, what I could see go on, and I could see where it could get twisted, is some of the interviewing techniques that exist, and I mean, I use it to this day, is that you ask a person, you have them recount everything, right? And then, because you know certain pieces already before you're talking to that person, so you're having them tell you, and you want to vet whether or not what they're telling you is accurate or truthful, right? Because maybe they're lying.
Right.
And I'm not saying these witnesses were, but just in general, as a technique, maybe they're lying. So then you start picking bits and pieces out, and you have them start recounting a story from a specific spot, and then you start, you know, kind of moving down the line and seeing how that story changes, if it changes, and introducing pieces from other things that you've heard or been privy to, right? So, you know, it could be that, it could be, you know, even just challenging. Hey, how do you know that it was a 17-year-old that you heard yell? How do you know that? Have you ever heard George Zimmerman speak? How do you know he doesn't have a voice that sounds like a 17-year-old? How do you know Trayvon Martin doesn't have a voice that sounds like a 30-year-old?
Right.
Right? So you start piecing at that to try to figure out, okay, what does this person actually know? Or what do they think that they know? Everybody wants to be a witness, but not all witnesses are actually witnesses.
Is it standard procedure when a shooting like this happens for the shooter to be tested for drugs and alcohol? Because according to this, and again, more facts, and this is hindsight, us looking back, well, was it even standard practice back then? I'm not sure if you remember that, you know, in a shooting like this, that the shooter should be tested for alcohol and for drugs.
I mean, it's a good practice, especially in something like this where everybody's right there. You know, we'd have to look back. I can't remember. I just talked a lot about the Curtis Reeves shooting, which was a theater shooting in Pasco County, right? Kind of similar in some senses, different in a lot of senses also, right? Same premise. Shooter, you know, supposed stand your ground type of thing. But I think it makes a lot of sense that they would have. It's illegal to carry a gun while you're drunk or high.
Right.
So, it's prudent too.
Yeah, but they didn't. I don't even like. And I guess I think part of the thing too, and you and I have talked about this too off camera. I think the racial part makes a lot of this crazy to someone black like me, because I just know that it wouldn't have been, or I just feel super strongly that if I would have shot a white kid like that night, right, it just wouldn't have gone the same way for me. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I would probably been locked up that night. I would have more than likely been all kinds of tested for everything. My history of everything would have been blatantly thrown out there. And I think that's the biggest part that makes this whole thing even more, because it just seemed like Zimmerman mocked everything. It just seemed like everybody around. And like I said, again, I think his lawyer just did a great job of being an attorney. And I didn't think that he was disrespectful in any way. He just did a great job as a defense attorney. Mark O'Mara, I think his name was. He just did
I think you're right.
He just did a great job as a defense attorney. And that made me look at a lot of things and really made me want to have this talk even more, because I don't want people to confuse, what they think they know about self-defense or stand your ground and be like, well, George Zimmerman did this to one of our kids. And then it's all kinds of things, like you said, that go into play, along with the fact that we know how quick race can be into something, Stop playing. Don't forget, man, hit that subscribe button right now so you can catch all the updates and all the haps here at Hip Hop Study Hall. All right. It's your man, DJ Ekin. I see you. Subscribe. Hit it now.